In the sunlit streets of Barcelona, where the rhythm of life dances to the echoes of football chants and the scent of fresh paella, an unexpected story began to weave itself into the city's vibrant tapestry. It was the summer of 2025, and while the world's eyes were fixed on the grand charity match uniting football legends, the true heartbeat of the tale pulsed quietly within the walls of Hospital Saint-Jean-de-Dieu. Here, amidst the hum of medical machines and the soft murmur of hope, the lives of four strangers were about to converge in ways none could have foreseen. Lionel Messi, now a living monument to the sport he had graced for decades, entered the hospital with the intention of a brief visit. Yet, the weight of his journey, from the dusty fields of Rosario to global superstardom, seemed to follow him, tucked away in the form of a small, tattered keepsake he carried everywhere. His arrival coincided with a pivotal moment for Dr. Emilia Rossi, a trailblazing oncologist whose relentless pursuit of innovation was fueled by her grandfather's legacy as a pioneer of diversity in medicine. Her research teetered on the edge of a breakthrough, but the burden of funding and visibility loomed large. On the pediatric floor, young Carlos Mendoza clung to hope as fiercely as he did to his dreams of football glory. His room, a kaleidoscope of posters, scarves, and scribbled tactics, reflected a mind consumed by the game even as his body fought a relentless battle against leukemia. Across the hall, Marco Torres, a journalist known for his biting critiques of football's darker side, lingered with his notebook in hand. He had come for a story, but the quiet ribbon pinned to his chest hinted at a personal connection to the hospital's mission. As Messi stepped into Carlos's room, the air seemed to shift. The boy's wide-eyed gaze and the footballer's quiet humility bridged the gap between idol and admirer. Dr. Rossi, observing from the doorway, saw an opportunity to link her life's work to the power of Messi's platform. Meanwhile, Marco's pen hesitated, the cynicism of his usual narratives giving way to something unfamiliar, hope. In that fleeting moment, the lines between fame, science, and struggle blurred, setting the stage for a story that would ripple far beyond Barcelona's borders. Barcelona in the summer of 2025 was a city alive with contrasts, where the ancient Gothic quarter whispered stories of the past, and the sleek, modern skyline spoke of innovation. The streets pulsed with anticipation for the charity match that promised to unite football legends, yet the true heart of the city beat quietly within the walls of Hospital Saint-Jean-de-Dieu. Here, amidst the sterile hum of medical equipment and the soft murmur of hope, lives intersected in ways no one could have foreseen. Lionel Messi, now 38 and nearing the end of his football career, carried the weight of his legacy with quiet humility. His childhood charm, a small token from Rosario, was a reminder of his roots and the journey that had shaped him. Though the world saw him as a global icon, Messi often wrestled with the question of what his impact would be beyond the pitch. His visit to the hospital, initially a routine gesture of goodwill, became something far more profound when he met Carlos Mendoza, a boy whose resilience mirrored Messi's own battles with adversity. Carlos, a 12-year-old with an unyielding passion for football, found solace in the sport as he faced the relentless challenges of leukemia. His sketches of tactical plays revealed a mind brimming with creativity and determination, traits that endeared him to Messi instantly. Their connection was immediate, bridging the gap between idol and fan, and sparking a bond that would transcend their circumstances. Dr. Emilia Rossi, a trailblazer in oncology, had devoted her life to pushing the boundaries of medicine. Her grandfather's pioneering spirit lived on in her, driving her to use this unexpected moment of celebrity attention to amplify her research. Yet, she grappled with the ethical tightrope of blending science and fame, even as Messi's presence offered a rare chance to spotlight her work. Observing from the sidelines, Marco Torres, a disillusioned journalist, found his hardened exterior softening. The raw humanity of the scene challenged his cynicism, forcing him to reconsider his role in shaping narratives. The hospital, a place of both struggle and hope, became the crucible where these lives collided, setting the stage for a story that would ripple far beyond its walls. In the heart of Barcelona, a chance encounter between Lionel Messi and Dr. Emilia Rossi at a hospital sparks an unexpected alliance, intertwining a young leukemia patient's dream, groundbreaking cancer research, and a journalist's rediscovery of hope, setting the stage for a transformative journey that transcends fame, illness, and ambition, igniting a ripple of change. The elevator doors slid open, and Messi stepped into the pediatric ward, his presence drawing odd stares from patients and staff alike. Carlos, his eyes wide with disbelief, clutched the corner of his blanket as Messi entered his room. The boy's mother, seated nearby, whispered words of encouragement, urging her son to speak. Messi, sensing the boy's shyness, knelt beside the bed and began asking questions about Carlos's favorite teams and players. Slowly, the boy's hesitation gave way to excitement, his voice growing stronger with each word. For the first time in weeks, laughter filled the room, and Messi felt an unfamiliar weight settle in his chest, a mix of admiration for Carlos's courage and guilt for the simplicity of his own struggles. Meanwhile, Dr. Rossi observed the scene from the doorway, a mixture of hope and trepidation flickering in her eyes. Her research, though promising, was underfunded and misunderstood by many in the medical community. She saw Messi's visit as a potential lifeline, a way to draw attention to her work. Yet, the ethical dilemma loomed large. Was it right to leverage a child's illness and a celebrity's goodwill for personal gain? Her thoughts were interrupted when Carlos's mother turned to her, gratitude shining through weary eyes. "Thank you for everything you've done," she said, her voice trembling. Dr. Rossi nodded, her resolve hardening. She would find a way to balance her mission with integrity. In the corner of the room, Marco Torres scribbled furiously in his notebook, his usual skepticism softened by the raw humanity before him. He had come expecting a manufactured PR moment but found himself captivated by the authenticity of the interactions. For the first time in years, he questioned the cynicism that had defined his career. Perhaps, he thought, there was more to the world of football than money and scandal. Perhaps stories like this could remind people of the sport's true essence, connection, resilience, and hope. As the visit drew to a close, Messi promised Carlos he'd dedicate a goal to him in the upcoming charity match. The boy's face lit up, his fingers clutching Messi's hand with surprising strength. Outside the room, Messi paused, turning to Dr. Rossi. "If there's anything I can do to help your work, let me know," he said, his voice quiet but firm. Her heart leaped at the offer, though she knew the road ahead would be far from simple. For Carlos, Messi, Dr. Rossi, and even Marco, this moment marked the beginning of an unexpected journey, one that would test their limits and redefine their understanding of what it meant to truly make a difference. In the bustling heart of Barcelona, the ordinary hum of a summer day was shattered by an unexpected power outage at Hospital Sant Joan de Déu. The elevator carrying Lionel Messi and Dr. Emilia Rossi ground to a halt between floors, trapping them together in a moment neither had anticipated. The sudden darkness and confined space forced the two strangers into an uneasy conversation. Messi, unaccustomed to vulnerability, clutched his childhood charm, while Dr. Rossi, ever pragmatic, used the flashlight on her phone to calm the tension. Their exchange revealed a shared sense of purpose, one rooted in resilience and a desire to leave a lasting impact. Meanwhile, on the pediatric floor, Carlos Mendoza's condition took an alarming turn. His mother, Rosa, frantically alerted the nurses as his oxygen levels plummeted. The medical team scrambled to stabilize him, their efforts underscoring the fragility of his fight against leukemia. The commotion drew the attention of Marco Torres, who had been idly observing from the hallway. For the first time in years, Marco felt a pang of helplessness that pierced through his hardened exterior. His instincts as a journalist clashed with a long-buried personal pain, pushing him to reconsider his role in telling stories that truly mattered. When the power was restored, Messi and Dr. Rossi emerged from the elevator to find the hospital in a state of heightened urgency. Messi, shaken but determined, insisted on visiting Carlos despite the disruption. In the boy's room, the sight of his idol sparked a flicker of life in Carlos's weary eyes. Messi, moved by the encounter, offered his frayed debut jersey for the charity auction, a gesture that resonated deeply with everyone present. Dr. Rossi, inspired by the moment, began to see Messi's influence as a potential bridge to amplify her research. As the hospital staff regained control of the situation, the lives of these four individuals had already begun to intertwine. What started as a routine visit had unraveled into a series of events that demanded action, courage, and collaboration. The status quo was no longer an option. The elevator doors slid open, and Messi found himself drawn into a whirlwind of emotions as he stepped onto the pediatric floor. The sterile scent of antiseptic mingled with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee from a nearby nurse's station. He noticed a young woman with a camera slung over her shoulder, her sharp eyes scanning the room. Sofia Alvarez, a budding documentary filmmaker and former youth footballer, had been granted special access to capture the hospital's efforts for an upcoming awareness campaign. She was determined to showcase the intersection of sports and social impact, though her guarded demeanor hinted at a personal story she wasn't ready to share. Carlos's room was alive with color, his sketches and posters creating an atmosphere of defiance against the clinical white walls. As Messi entered, Carlos's mother, Elena, stood from her chair, her eyes betraying the exhaustion of sleepless nights and endless worry. Yet, her smile was unwavering, her pride in her son shining through. The boy's face lit up as Messi approached, and the footballer's instinctive humility allowed the moment to unfold naturally. Carlos handed him a sketch of a football play he had designed, his voice trembling as he explained the strategy. Messi studied it intently, nodding in admiration, and promised to try it in the charity match. Meanwhile, Dr. Rossi, observing from the doorway, felt the weight of a decision pressing on her. The presence of Messi and the media offered a rare platform to spotlight her research, but the ethical line between advocacy and exploitation was razor-thin. She glanced at Sofia, who was quietly filming the interaction, and wondered if the filmmaker's lens could capture the nuance of her work without reducing it to a soundbite. In the corner of the room, Marco Torres leaned against the wall, his notebook untouched. He was uncharacteristically silent, watching as Messi and Carlos connected over their shared love of football. For the first time in years, Marco felt a flicker of curiosity that wasn't driven by cynicism but by genuine intrigue. He noticed Elena discreetly adjusting a scarf to hide the threadbare edges of her blouse and made a mental note to dig deeper into the socio-economic challenges faced by families like hers. As the visit continued, a nurse entered with a small envelope addressed to Carlos. Inside was a ticket to the charity match, signed by several players. The boy's eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment, his illness seemed to fade into the background. Messi, touched by the gesture, turned to Dr. Rossi and asked if Carlos could attend. The doctor hesitated, her professional caution clashing with her desire to give the boy a moment of joy. She promised to consult with her team, knowing that even small risks carried immense weight. Outside the room, Sofia approached Marco, her camera lowered. "This is different from your usual beat," she remarked, her tone a mix of curiosity and challenge. Marco shrugged, his usual sarcasm absent. "Sometimes, the story finds you," he replied, surprising even himself. Their conversation hinted at an unlikely partnership, one that could bridge their contrasting approaches to storytelling. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the city, Messi lingered in the hospital lobby. His gaze fell on the frayed jersey in the auction display, its faded colors a stark contrast to the vibrancy of the day's events. He thought of Carlos, of the boy's unwavering spirit, and the tactical brilliance in his sketches. In that moment, Messi realized that his legacy might not lie solely in trophies or records, but in the lives he could touch and the stories he could amplify. The atmosphere in the hospital shifted as news of Messi's visit spread, drawing staff and patients alike into a quiet buzz of anticipation. Yet, while some saw only a fleeting celebrity moment, others began to sense the deeper threads weaving through the day. Dr. Rossi, observing Messi's interaction with Carlos from the doorway, felt a surge of urgency. The boy's condition was deteriorating faster than expected, and her experimental treatment, though promising, remained entangled in bureaucratic red tape. She wrestled with the ethical dilemma. Could Messi's influence bring the attention and funding needed, or would it risk reducing her work to a spectacle? Meanwhile, Marco Torres stood at a crossroads of his own. His instincts as a journalist urged him to dig into the hospital's financial struggles and the systemic inequities in pediatric care, but for the first time in years, he hesitated. Watching Messi and Carlos exchange smiles over a shared love of football, Marco felt an unfamiliar pang of hope. Could this story, if told right, shift public focus from scandal to solutions? His cynicism clashed with a growing desire to believe in the power of human connection. In the room, Carlos clutched his sketchbook tightly, hesitating before handing it to Messi. Inside were not only tactical formations but also a design for a football jersey, one he dreamed of wearing as a professional player. Messi, touched by the boy's creativity, promised to show the design to his team. This small gesture ignited something in Carlos, a spark of determination that momentarily eclipsed his pain. For Messi, the boy's resilience stirred questions about his own future. Was his legacy confined to trophies, or could he use his platform to champion causes far beyond the pitch? As the day unfolded, the threads connecting these lives grew tighter. Rossi's research notes caught Messi's eye, their intricate patterns reminding him of the fluidity of football. An idea began to form: what if the beauty of the game could be harnessed to fund breakthroughs in medicine? Marco, overhearing this exchange, felt his skepticism waver. Perhaps this wasn't just a feel-good story but the beginning of something transformative. Outside Carlos's room, hospital staff prepared for the charity auction featuring Messi's iconic jersey. Yet even this event carried hidden stakes. Unbeknownst to the crowd, the auction proceeds would determine whether the hospital could continue funding its pediatric oncology wing. The frayed jersey, once a symbol of Messi's humble beginnings, now bore the weight of countless lives, including Carlos's. As Messi glanced at it in the lobby, he realized its value had transcended nostalgia. It had become a lifeline. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, each character faced a pivotal choice. Rossi drafted a proposal to fast-track her treatment, knowing it would require Messi's endorsement. Marco debated whether to write a heartfelt piece or expose the hospital's struggles, risking public backlash. Carlos, inspired by his hero's encouragement, began sketching a new play, one he vowed to share with Messi at their next meeting. And Messi, standing at the intersection of fame and purpose, resolved to use his influence in ways he had never considered before. The stakes had risen, and the intertwined lives of these individuals now carried the potential to spark a movement. In the vibrant heart of Barcelona, where football was king, the seeds of something far greater had been planted. The elevator doors slid open, and Messi stepped into Carlos's room, greeted by the boy's wide-eyed disbelief. The footballer's presence transformed the sterile hospital space into a realm of possibility, where dreams seemed tangible. Carlos, clutching a small notebook filled with his tactical sketches, hesitated before extending it toward Messi. "These are my ideas," he whispered, his voice trembling with both excitement and fear. Messi, intrigued, flipped through the pages, his expression softening as he recognized the depth of the boy's understanding of the game. It was more than admiration, it was vision. Dr. Rossi, watching from the doorway, felt a spark of inspiration. She had spent years trying to communicate the urgency of her research to a world often distracted by spectacle. Yet here was Messi, a symbol of global attention, engaging with Carlos as if nothing else existed. She realized the potential of this moment, not as a publicity stunt, but as a bridge between the worlds of sports and science. Quietly, she began drafting a proposal in her mind, one that could unite their influence for a cause greater than any individual. Meanwhile, Marco leaned against the wall, his notebook untouched. He had come to the hospital expecting another shallow celebrity appearance, but the authenticity of the interaction unfolding before him disarmed his cynicism. For years, he had buried his personal connection to pediatric cancer, refusing to confront the pain of his younger sister's battle. Now, watching Carlos's unwavering courage and Messi's genuine empathy, Marco felt a shift within himself, a crack in the armor he had so carefully constructed. As Messi handed the notebook back to Carlos, he made a promise. "We'll work on this together," he said, his voice steady but charged with emotion. The words hung in the air, a pact that neither of them fully understood yet but both instinctively trusted. Carlos's face lit up, his determination reignited as if Messi's belief in him had rekindled his own. The frayed jersey in the lobby became a symbol of something more profound as the day unfolded. Messi, reminded of his humble beginnings, began to see the parallels between his journey and Carlos's fight. Both were battles against odds, fueled by passion and resilience. The jersey, once a relic of his past, now represented a future where his influence could transcend the pitch. Rossi approached Messi cautiously, her tablet in hand. "I think we can do something extraordinary here," she began, her voice steady but filled with urgency. Messi listened intently, his gaze shifting between her and Carlos. The idea of using his platform to amplify her research resonated deeply, aligning with the legacy he was beginning to redefine. Marco, overhearing their conversation, felt a pull to document this story, not as a journalist chasing headlines, but as a human compelled to share a narrative of hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Barcelona, the hospital room seemed to pulse with a quiet energy. Each character stood at a crossroads, their paths converging in ways none of them could have foreseen. The stage was set for a journey that would challenge them to confront their fears, embrace their vulnerabilities, and discover the transformative power of connection. The ripples of this moment were just beginning to spread, promising a climax that would test their resolve and illuminate the boundless potential of the human spirit. The elevator doors slid open, revealing the pediatric oncology floor bathed in soft hues of orange from the setting sun. Messi, still processing his encounter with Carlos, found himself lingering in the hallway, his thoughts heavy yet oddly invigorating. Dr. Rossi, noticing his hesitation, approached him with a mixture of curiosity and determination. "You know," she began, her voice steady, "sometimes the smallest gestures can ignite the biggest changes." She gestured toward Carlos's room, where the boy now sketched furiously, his face alight with inspiration. Messi nodded, her words resonating deeply, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more he could do. Meanwhile, Marco Torres lingered near the hospital cafeteria, replaying the scene he had just witnessed. His notebook, usually filled with biting critiques, now bore the beginnings of something different, a narrative of hope. Yet, his instincts as a journalist warred with his emotions. Could he trust this moment of sincerity, or was it just another fleeting spectacle? As he sipped his coffee, he overheard two nurses discussing Dr. Rossi's research. The mention of funding struggles piqued his interest, and an idea began to take shape. Perhaps his pen could serve a purpose beyond exposing flaws, it could amplify voices like Rossi's. Back in Carlos's room, the boy's mother, Rosa, revealed a secret she had kept for years. Before his illness, Carlos had been scouted by a local youth academy, his tactical mind and passion for the game setting him apart. "He's always been a strategist," Rosa confided to Messi, her voice tinged with both pride and sorrow. "But now, his dreams feel so far away." Messi, moved by her words, glanced at Carlos's sketches. The intricate formations reminded him of his own early days, when football was both an escape and a lifeline. As the evening deepened, Dr. Rossi faced a dilemma. Messi's presence could bring unprecedented attention to her work, but she feared the ethical tightrope of leveraging his fame. In a quiet moment, she confided in her colleague, Dr. Elena Navarro, who suggested an unconventional approach: invite Messi to witness the research firsthand. "If he sees what's at stake, he'll understand," Navarro reasoned. Rossi hesitated but agreed, realizing this might be the breakthrough her work desperately needed. Unbeknownst to them, Marco had already begun drafting an article that wove together the threads of the day: Carlos's resilience, Rossi's groundbreaking work, and Messi's quiet transformation. Yet, as he wrote, he wrestled with a nagging question: was he ready to abandon cynicism and embrace the vulnerability of hope? As the hospital settled into its nighttime rhythm, Messi stood before the frayed jersey in the lobby. His fingers brushed the fabric, the memories of his first professional match flooding back. It wasn't just a relic, it was a testament to perseverance. A plan began to form in his mind, one that would intertwine his legacy with Carlos's dreams and Rossi's mission. The pieces were aligning, but the real test was yet to come. The days leading up to the charity match were anything but ordinary. Messi, haunted by Carlos's unwavering optimism despite his illness, found himself returning to the hospital, drawn by an inexplicable sense of purpose. Yet, the weight of his own doubts loomed large. Could he truly make a difference beyond the pitch? His conversations with Carlos stirred memories of his own struggles as a young boy in Rosario, battling growth hormone deficiency. The lucky charm in his wallet, once a symbol of triumph, now felt like a reminder of a responsibility he wasn't sure he could shoulder. Dr. Rossi faced mounting pressure as news of Messi's hospital visits brought media attention to her research. While the spotlight provided a platform to advocate for funding, it also attracted scrutiny from skeptical colleagues and corporate sponsors wary of her unorthodox methods. Her grandfather's legacy, once a source of strength, now felt like a heavy mantle. Balancing her scientific integrity with the need to seize this rare opportunity, she wrestled with a question that kept her awake at night. Was she using Carlos's story, or was she amplifying his voice? Meanwhile, Marco Torres found himself at a crossroads. His editor demanded a sensational story, pushing him to frame the hospital visits as a publicity stunt. Yet, the raw humanity he witnessed in Carlos's room gnawed at his cynicism. Digging deeper, he uncovered a connection between the hospital's underfunded pediatric oncology wing and systemic inequalities in healthcare access. For the first time in years, Marco felt the stirrings of a journalist's true purpose, to expose injustice and inspire change, rather than simply sell headlines. Carlos, emboldened by Messi's visits, began sketching a bold new tactical play in his notebook, a formation he believed could revolutionize the game. It became more than a distraction from his treatments, it was a symbol of hope, a dream he refused to let go of. But his condition worsened unexpectedly, forcing everyone around him to confront the fragility of time. The charity match, once a distant event, now carried heightened stakes, as if the outcome could somehow rewrite the narrative of his fight. As the match day approached, all threads began to converge. Messi, inspired by Carlos's sketches, saw an opportunity to honor the boy's vision on the field. Rossi, with newfound resolve, prepared to unveil her research to a skeptical world, knowing the risks but unwilling to let fear dictate her actions. Marco, torn between professional obligations and personal convictions, drafted a story that could either expose systemic failures or amplify the hope he had witnessed. And Carlos, though physically weakened, held on to a dream that had already begun to ripple outward, touching lives far beyond his hospital room. The final hours before the match were a crucible of emotions, each character grappling with their own fears and aspirations. The stage was set, not just for a game, but for a moment that would demand courage, vulnerability, and the willingness to believe in something greater than themselves. The charity match arrived under the spotlight of global attention, but the true drama unfolded far from the stadium. Lionel Messi, inspired by his visit to Carlos, played with a renewed sense of purpose, dedicating his performance to the young boy. After the game, he announced the creation of a foundation aimed at providing funding for pediatric cancer research, with Carlos as its honorary ambassador. This moment, broadcast worldwide, ignited a wave of support, bringing together athletes, fans, and philanthropists in an unprecedented show of solidarity. Dr. Emilia Rossi, emboldened by the momentum, secured the funding needed to advance her groundbreaking research. Her work, now tied to Messi's foundation, became a beacon of hope for families battling cancer. She also found herself reconnecting with her grandfather's legacy, using her newfound platform to advocate for equity in healthcare, especially for underrepresented communities. Her personal and professional journey came full circle as she realized the power of collaboration in driving change. Carlos, buoyed by the outpouring of support, began to see himself not just as a patient but as a leader. With Messi's encouragement, he shared his tactical sketches with the football legend, whose admiration for the boy's ingenuity led to a mentorship that transcended the hospital walls. Carlos's story became a symbol of resilience, his voice inspiring countless others to find strength in adversity. Meanwhile, Marco Torres penned an article unlike any he had written before. Shedding his usual cynicism, he crafted a heartfelt narrative that captured the transformative power of human connection. His piece went viral, sparking conversations about the intersection of sports, philanthropy, and social responsibility. For the first time in years, Marco felt pride in his work, realizing the impact of storytelling in shaping a better world. As Barcelona's nightlight shimmered, the lives touched by this chance encounter began to ripple outward. This was more than a story of a football legend or a medical breakthrough, it was a call to action. Join the fight against pediatric cancer, support equitable healthcare, and believe in the extraordinary potential of human connection to change the world. As the weeks unfolded, the meeting at Hospital Sant Joan de Déu became a rallying point for change. Lionel Messi, moved by Carlos's courage and Dr. Rossi's dedication, announced the creation of a global initiative to fund pediatric cancer research and support young patients. Titled Goals Beyond the Game, the project united sports, medicine, and storytelling, with Messi pledging to donate a portion of his earnings and auctioning his cherished first match jersey to launch the campaign. The jersey, once a symbol of his rise to greatness, now became a beacon of hope for countless families. Carlos, inspired by his encounter with Messi, began to channel his tactical brilliance into designing football-inspired fundraising events for the hospital. His sketches, once confined to his bedside, caught the attention of local clubs, and soon, his ideas were brought to life on pitches across Barcelona. Though his battle with leukemia continued, Carlos's resilience and creativity became a source of inspiration for his community, proving that even in the face of adversity, dreams could flourish. Dr. Rossi, bolstered by the newfound attention on her research, secured the funding needed to advance her groundbreaking treatment. Yet, she remained steadfast in her mission to honor her grandfather's legacy by ensuring that her work reached underserved communities. Her collaboration with Messi's foundation expanded her reach, bridging the worlds of science and sport in unprecedented ways. For her, the encounter in the elevator had become the turning point she never expected but always needed. Marco Torres, once defined by skepticism, penned a deeply personal feature on the events at the hospital. His article, titled "The Day Football Saved Lives," went viral, sparking conversations about the role of sports and media in driving social change. For the first time in years, Marco felt the weight of his platform's potential, vowing to tell stories that uplifted rather than exposed. As the sun set on Barcelona once more, the city buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose. The chance meeting of four lives had sparked a movement, reminding the world that true greatness lies not in fame or fortune but in the courage to lift others. Now, it's your turn to act, support initiatives that bring hope to those in need, because, like Messi, Carlos, Dr. Rossi, and Marco, you too can be a catalyst for change.